The Teal Mask DLC for Scarlet and Violet is finally here, and today I'll be spending 24 hours shiny hunting all the new and returning Pokemon, starting with this absolutely amazing Spinarak, who I decided to hunt first because he has one of my favorite shinies of all time, and that's something I'm going to be saying a lot in this video. With over 100 new and returning Pokemon available in the Kitakami region, we've got an amazing and exciting journey ahead of us. Alright, so as you probably know, Part 1 of the Hidden Treasures DLC has finally released, and I absolutely loved it. And with this new mini region comes a big list of new Pokemon to shiny hunt, which is perfect because I've almost gotten every single shiny in the base game at this point. And in my opinion, most of the new and returning shinies I would consider at least A tier, and we've got 24 hours to get as many of them as possible. However, there's a catch. I've given myself a bunch of challenges to complete. Catch an entire box of shinies, catch a shiny of every type, get a shiny from every generation, and get 10 marked shinies, totaling 67 tasks. And for each task I fail to complete in these 24 hours, I'll have to trade away 5 shinies to my subscribers. So with no shinies caught yet, I currently have 335 shiny Pokemon on the line. We'll be checking in on these stats from time to time. Anyways, now that we're finally in the Kitakami region, let's get right into the hunting. So as you saw earlier, we started with Spinarak, which I've been so hyped to hunt because I'm such a sucker for blue shinies. And that's pretty evident considering the next Pokemon I hunted also has a blue shiny, and that would be Yunma, everyone's favorite little dragonfly, who I found an outbreak of and struggled to kill 60 of them for the increased shiny chances, seeing as they'd just fly away and because Iron Valiant would just get stuck in these tiny hills. But thankfully this hunt only took around 25 minutes, and damn, shiny Yunma looks so good in this game. How I decide my next hunts would be based off what cool outbreaks I could find, and our next target was an underrated Gen 5 martial artist, Mienfoo. Now we actually bumped into a shiny that wasn't Mienfoo, but thankfully it's one I can never get enough of, Shiny Rolls. For those who know me, the Rolls line is actually my favorite shiny family, so I'll definitely take this. And well, it wouldn't be a Jayden shiny hunting video if it didn't contain a shiny fail, and that criteria was met extremely quickly, as when I was despawning the Pokemon in the outbreak, we had the Scarlet and Violet Classic, where a shiny will spawn like 2 centimeters away from the player's radius and despawn instantly because I don't have microsecond reaction timing. It was our first shiny fail in the Kitakami region, and these ones always feel like a kick in the guts. Luckily, a new blue Mienfoo showed up only 15 minutes later. The next shiny I hunted is also one of my all-time favorites. In fact, it's actually one of the weirdest shiny Pokemon out there, Lotad. It honestly looks like his textures were corrupted or something, but I love it. Thankfully, using grass encounter boosts in this little pond, we can isolate the spawns to our target. Despite how many there were, it took around 50 minutes to find, but oh my god, I love how strange he looks. He also had a cloudy mark, which is super useful for our challenges. Speaking of which, here's our first update of things we've ticked off. Where I currently stand, I've still got 255 shinies on the line. It may seem like we've ticked a bunch of stuff off really quickly, but the more we tick off, the harder it's gonna get over time. Our next hunt actually took quite some time to complete, and that will be for a shiny Bellsprout. I ended up finding an outbreak of him on Apple Hills, and fittingly found another shiny we weren't looking for, shiny Applin. However, this is great because he'll actually help us get a brand new Generation 9 shiny. For those unaware, Applin gets a third new split evolution called Diplin, and essentially turns him into a candy apple, which is really cool. But what's even cooler is the fact that unlike the rest of Applin's shiny family, Diplin will turn to gold, which I love. Now, I'm definitely a big fan of the Granny Smith shinies on the other apples, but just like blue shinies, I'm such a sucker for gold and yellow ones too. In fact, outside of Blacephalon, this is the only Pokemon whose signature attack changes with the shiny as well, because using Syrup Bomb with a regular Diplin will show a red animation, whilst the shiny will change it to gold. That's so cool. We need more in-depth details like this. Anyways, back to Bellsprout. From start to finish, this hunt took just over 2 hours, which wasn't ideal, but I didn't really care because can I just say I've been having so much fun doing new hunts for once. After spending essentially all year shiny hunting non-stop in Paldea, I think I'd be able to recreate every square inch of that map in my head. So being in the Kitakami region and having new scenery with new Pokemon has been such a breath of fresh air. Alright, our next target is one that I've really been looking forward to getting, and that would be Slugma. Thankfully, at the top of the Infernal Pass, you can exclusively get Slugma to spawn, with Fire-type boosts on. But despite all the spawns, we went half an hour with no luck. But what happened next really caught me off guard. But before we continue, this video is sponsored by War Thunder. War Thunder is a free-to-play, in-depth vehicle combat game, where you can control more than 2,000 tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships in PvP battles. Each vehicle is incredibly modeled for the best immersion possible, and there's also this crazy in-depth customization system system that allows you to personalize your vehicles just the way you like, and can be perfectly viewed with the incredible 4K resolution graphics that makes you feel as if you're actually in the game. Something I love about this game is the vehicle damaging models. There are no giant stupid square hitboxes like in Scarlet and Violet, where I won't even touch a Pokemon and encounter them, but instead, each part of the vehicle has their own hitboxes and damage systems. So go play War Thunder now for free on PC, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and previous generation consoles. And new and returning players can claim a large bonus pack for a limited time only. Thanks so much for the sponsor, and let's get back to the video. As I was saying, what happened next came as a giant surprise, because as I was zooming around, I bumped into a Pokemon that spawned right in front of me, which would normally be really annoying, but in this case, it was actually the shiny Slugma, which I didn't even see because it appeared so quickly and camouflaged in with the rocks. This is such a cool shiny, and I'm so glad to finally have it. He also had a Dawn Mark too. I then used the remainder of my fire boosts around Reveler's Road to get a shiny Vulpix. And yes, this did actually happen, but I forgot to hit record, so here is proof I found it. You're just gonna have to trust me on this one. And I also couldn't resist evolving this into the beautiful shiny Ninetales. It's just so iconic and looks amazing in every game. Alright, this next shiny has been in my top 3 most anticipated hunts for this DLC, maybe even number 1, and that will be for shiny Phantom. Probably my favorite ghost type family in Pokemon, who have such amazing and unique looking shinies. They're just so good, and I have to get one of each. So after date skipping for an outbreak, I hunted that thing like my life depended on it, and it only took around 25 minutes to find this absolute perfection of a shiny that I've always wanted to catch. He's just such a cool little guy, and I'll protect him with my life. And what's even better is that he had a Dawn Mark. But it was now time for a second one to become a Trevenant. The hunt this time around was significantly longer, taking over an hour, but that only added to the excitement of finding shiny number 2. And after trading it away and back, I finally had this awesome ghostly tree monster and completed the shiny family. Here's another quick progress update. Things are looking pretty good. We've already managed to halve the amount of shinies to give away in just 8 hours, although it's going to be getting a lot harder with less stuff to tick off. Okay, it's time to find another 2 brand new shinies to this DLC, Poltergeist and Sinistra, the Kitakami lookalikes of Sinistea and Poltergeist. I absolutely love these little guys, and they're probably one of my favorite Generation 9 Pokemon. Unfortunately though, their shinies aren't the best, essentially turning the black parts of their shells to a really dark green that can be quite hard to see in the Scarlet and Violet lighting. This hunt took just about an hour to find, and I know I'm kind of skimming past this hunt quickly, and that's because we're actually going to return to it again later in this video for something really cool, so keep that in mind. Oh yeah, it also had a slump mark by the way. Anyways, it's duck time. Yeah, you heard that right, it's time to get ourselves a shiny Ducklet. Quite a sleeper shiny I never hear anyone talk about, but one that I think is S tier, changing to a nice pink and purple combo, and I found it in just under an hour using the picnic outbreak method, and just look how amazing she is. Honestly, so underrated. What happened next was also pretty crazy, because basically I teleported to the crystal pool to start hunting for a Litwick, but as soon as I spawned in and turned my camera around, there was just a shiny Yunma waiting there for me right in front of my face. That's perfect, because I love this shiny and means we can now have a shiny Yunmega as well, which also looks so good. Like I just mentioned, we were going for Litwick next, which only spawns at night and is way easier to encounter with an outbreak. I'm pretty familiar with shiny Litwick since it had a community day in Pokemon Go at the end of 2022, but even though I knew exactly what to look for, I was surprised with how much it blended in with the regular ones and didn't stand out like I thought it would. But thankfully, we managed to spot it, and this one we just have to evolve. Shiny Lampin I think is actually underrated with this awesome violet looking flame, but we evolved it again to become this amazing shiny Chandelure. Actually such a fantastic beast. And I then used the rest of my ghost type boost to look for a Duskull, and to my surprise, the red ghost appeared in just 4 minutes. Another great shiny which I'd appreciate much more if I didn't get him all the time in Legends Arceus, and I really wish he wasn't as dull as he used to be. Alright, next I wanted to hunt for Jangmo-o, but not just for one of them, but for 3. I'm gonna be getting one of each shiny in the family, because I never realized until now how much I love their weird golden pink shinies, and also just how underrated these Pokemon are in general. They're probably the most forgotten pseudo-legendary family outside of Baxcalibur and maybe Goodra. But yeah, recently the Jangmo-o line has just been really growing on me, and thankfully in the Paradise Barrens, Dragon Encounter boosts will exclusively spawn them everywhere. It was a pretty switch your brain off and just do laps around the area type of hunt, which I'm always down for, considering the shiny will be impossible to miss with its color scheme. Our first one took just under an hour to find, and oh my god, the Scarlet and Violet metallic textures make it look even better than in other games. I actually love it. And then the second shiny took just over 20 minutes to find, and he actually had a Stormy mark. And not long after catching him, we had now officially crossed the halfway mark. 12 hours in, 12 to go. The third shiny took the longest to find, taking over an hour. But now we finally had 3 beautiful shiny Jangmo-O, and with a bit of evolving, the entire shiny family. Oh my god, they actually look so cool, and you can't convince me otherwise. Here's another quick progress report. Now, I'm not saying I don't want to give away any of my shinies to you guys, but oh my god, seeing that number almost get out of the hundreds range is such a relief. Next, it was time to hunt for the good little doggo Puccina. Dark type boost made it super easy to isolate, and we actually found the yellow dog in just 10 minutes, right next to the bus stop that started this Kitakami journey. Yet again, another great shiny. I then used the rest of the dark type boost to look for the Gen 8 Pikachu clone. More Peko. Not my favorite Pokemon, and the same thing can be said about the shiny, but I didn't want the sandwich to go to waste, and damn, this shiny just barely made the cut, seeing as we found it with literally 4 seconds remaining on the boosts. That's actually insane. You can probably tell why it's not my favorite, but it's still a new one for the collection. Then it was time to hunt for one of my favorite shinies of Generation 1, Coughing. I don't know why, but the body turning turquoise with the smog turning purple I think looks really cool. And again, with the right boosts in the right location, we can isolate the spawns to our target. And pretty much the same thing that happened with Slugma occurred during this hunt as well, because as I was zooming around, I ended up accidentally bumping into a shiny. However, it was a Glimmet, because yeah, they'd occasionally spawn as well. The shiny Coughing then showed up only 10 minutes later, and is another one I'm super happy to add to the collection. Unfortunately, our next shiny I also forgot to record, and I only have this 30-second clip on my Switch, but pretty much I was making my way to an Apalm outbreak, and we encountered another shiny Morpeko out of nowhere. Nothing too special here, but a shiny's a shiny. As you can probably tell, Apalm was next on the list. This hunt gave off the same vibes as Duskull, where I wasn't really that excited for it, considering I get them all the time in Legends Arceus. But then again, it's a happy pink monkey with a giant hand for a tail, so I guess I don't have much to complain about. Okay, I'm not quite sure what came over me these next few hours, but I had something important that needed doing. A mission that's never been tackled in Kitakami before, and one that I would stop at nothing to complete. And that would be to get 6 shiny Munchlax so I can have an entire team of giant shiny Snorlax. Why? I honestly have no idea. This vision just randomly came to my head, and fulfilling it is non-negotiable. It must be done. I guess I've always really liked Snorlax as a Pokemon, and over the last year or so, he's been climbing up the ladder to become one of my top favorites ever. And I mean, would you complain if you had an entire team of cuddly shiny Snorlax? Of course you wouldn't. So let's get to it. We of course used the Outbreak method as well as normal type boosts for the best chances possible. Unfortunately, it wasn't the greatest Outbreak, but it will have to do. Our first shiny appeared in a little over an hour, and although I'm not one to usually like the subtle changing shinies, Munchlax and Snorlax I do think look really good. Oh, and wait, is that a shiny Squirtle I see in the background? Oh my god, I absolutely love when multiple shinies appear at the same time. It's just such a flex. I must admit, doing this hunt wasn't the most exciting thing in the world, but I must push on. Shiny Munchlax 2, 3, and 4 each came a little over an hour after each other, and the 4th one had a lunchtime mark. Pretty fitting, huh? The 5th one came in around 40 minutes, and it was time for another shiny we weren't looking for. Our second pink monkey. Then finally, after almost 6 hours of hunting, I had scored a whole team's worth of shiny Munchlax. We finally did it! And it was time to spend eternity bringing up all their friendships and evolve them to the giant sleepy monsters. Oh my god, seeing them all together is actually amazing. Was it worth it? Absolutely. Was it a waste of my time? Probably, yeah, but I don't regret anything. Here's one last progress update on the challenges, and I'm gonna be real, I actually forgot I gave myself challenges, so it's totally possible I'll be giving away 20 Pokemon. With only a little over 4 hours remaining, we won't be finding many more shinies. However, that doesn't mean we won't be getting anything special. Remember how I said we'd be going back to hunting Poltergeist? Well, now's the time, because I found something crazy. Okay, so after completing my Kitakami Pokedex, every outbreak that appears should show up as that Pokemon sprite. However, I came across a suspicious question mark outbreak, despite having a finished dex. And that's actually because they've now made it so different forms of Pokemon will show up as question marks if you haven't caught them before. And they've also fixed the bug where you can have a certain form of a Pokemon appear in the outbreak sprite, but then the game would only ever spawn the default version. So what I'm getting at is we have an outbreak of Poltergeist, but it's a form I don't have yet. And if you know anything about Sinistea and Poltergeist, you'll know that there's a really rare antique version that adds this authentic stamp at the bottom of the teacup. It doesn't actually do anything, but it's just a really rare and awesome flex. And the Poltergeist line has the same thing, known as the artisan form. What we have here is an artisan outbreak, meaning every Poltergeist here is the much rarer form, and we're gonna shiny hunt it. Now, does this mean it loses its ultimate rarity status? Yeah, kind of, but I still really want it. So with this artisan outbreak, it was time to hunt for another shiny, and this one actually took over 2 hours to find, surprisingly, but it was totally worth it, because with the camera tilted in the perfect direction, and if you really squint your eyes, you'll see that this one's a special shiny. I think it's really cool that this form is now more accessible than we thought it would be, even if it devalues it a bunch. It even had an uncommon mark, and you know what? Whilst we're here, and considering an artisan outbreak won't be as easy to identify now that I've caught one, we might as well get a second one to evolve into Sinistra. This one came much quicker in only around 12 minutes, and after evolving it, we now had both artisan shinies, which is actually awesome. And now for our final shiny, I decided to hunt for a Centret, because he's also got such a good one, and he's absolutely adorable. We managed to find this yellow guy with just under 20 minutes remaining on the timer, and the real reason I got him was to evolve him into a shiny ferret, because just look at this little guy. I would actually give away all my possessions to own one of these things in real life. And that's time. Shiny hunting in Kitakami was such a blast and breath of fresh air. And before we check the final stats and see how many shinies I gotta give away, I just gotta give another quick shout out to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. Go download and play it using my link in the description, and new and returning players can earn a bunch of awesome loot to help you get started. It's a really fun game and I think you'll enjoy it, so go check them out. Anyways, here are the results. We managed to score 36 shinies plus 1 failed shiny Mienfoo, and we actually failed 3 of the 67 tasks, meaning I gotta give away 15 shinies to you guys. That's absolutely fine, and all you gotta do for a chance to win one is to click subscribe and follow me on Twitter, where I'll actually be giving them away over the next week or two.